Hello all and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by husky, hairy, huggable homos who love film and their friends and families to talk something near and dear to our hearts, that of course being movies. I am delighted to welcome some special guests to the show to talk to us about Haunters, The Art of the Scare, a new documentary about extreme haunts. We've got director Jon Schnitzer with us. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, good. How about you? I love your intro. That was a great intro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we love your movie. That was a great movie. So.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I'm off to a good start. I think it's going to be a really fun show. This is going to be a fun show.
Awesome. Well, that's definitely the hope for sure. We're also very, very excited. You've actually seen her on the show before. She's our very own Goldilocks, our screen queen extraordinaire, Jessica Cameron. Oh my God, welcome back to the Movie Bears podcast.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's always an honor to be here.
Oh goodness, so jazzed to have you back. Well, it's honor all around. It's
I've got my own little real life bear.
Aww. As our hearts melt. Jessica, is he dressing up for Halloween?
He did not, because he's a little bit temperamental sometimes. He doesn't really like a lot of people. He's an angry little bear. He's a grumpy little bear. So I try to break him to
He's just misunderstood. He's just misunderstood.
Right? So I do try to bring him to a few parties, but he always has to call it an early night. So I did not dress him up. But I have lots of cute little sweaters and stuff.
Is that a Hellraiser pillow behind you?
Yes.
That's awesome. I've never seen a Hellraiser pillow.
Oh, they're my
That's great.
Well, snuggle and cuddle a Hellraiser pillow.
I know, right? Well, I know you want one, right? You can find them on Amazon. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Every time I do a podcast, I have to tweet out the links because I get so many people being like, "Where'd you get those?" I'm like, "Go here, get them here."
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. we'll put that link in the show notes, Jessica, so our listeners can find it too. That's fantastic. So, also would be remiss if I didn't introduce and mention my wonderful co-hosts, two people I could not live my life without. Jim Pugliafico, welcome to the show. Hey, babe, how you doing? From Washington D.C. on the road.
That's right. Thanks, babe, and hi to our guests, and hi to everybody out there who's listening. It's fun to be able to join the show from the road. This is kind of an adventure for me. So hopefully my audio and video will stay together, and I'll be able to stay on the show. But thanks.
Well, if you suddenly disappear, we won't assume that you've been dragged into an extreme haunted attraction and can't get out. We'll just
right.
Probably trying to reconnect. And Will Lindis is here with us as well. Welcome, Will. Tell us what is on your face right now for those who are maybe listening on audio tape delay.
What do you mean? What's on my face? I don't know what you're talking about. Is there something wrong? Is there?
Well, I told you to leave that scab alone. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Looks like I've just got a dab of blood right here on the all of my face.
You're going for the Carrie look, aren't you, Will?
I'm so ready for Halloween. This is my favorite time of year. This is a great episode for it. I've got this giant tub of fake blood that I never get to do anything with. So it's hell yeah, I'm going to just cake myself with it tonight, see what happens. So jazzed.
Welcome to my personal life.
Yeah. I love your personal life. This is awesome.
Well, Jessica, you've done movies like Truth or Dare and Mania. There's blood galore everywhere, so you're no stranger, of course, to...
Correct, and I always have fake blood. I always have it in the car. I always have it in my apartment.
What? That's awesome.
You gotta be prepared, yo.
Have blood will travel.
You never know we're going to need it, yeah. And it has to, that way, too, also, I have plausible deniability. No matter what life happens. I'm oh, no, it's fake. See the jug in the back?
Totally fake blood. It's not real. No, good call. I'm going to remember that. Yeah, I'm not going to murder anyone.
Well, there you go. We are super pumped to talk to you guys, John and Jessica, about Haunters. Real quick, though, for anybody that is watching on YouTube Live, you can pop into the live chat. Feel free to say hello, drop us a line in the chat. If it's appropriate for YouTube, we may read your comments on air. So, be appropriate. But John, definitely want to get things started by just kind of asking, for any of our listeners, we tweeted and Facebooked like weeks ago, like, watch this movie, it's so good, get ready for this awesome interview. But for anyone who maybe is not familiar with Haunters, what is it? Why should they check it out?
Well, Haunters is really about people that go way too far making haunted houses for Halloween. Okay, there's a reason I called it the art of the scare, because anyone who's ever tried to make art knows that to make art, you have to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice your time, your energy, your money, most likely some of your sanity. You have to sacrifice everything to create something. And what's fascinating about this movie is you get to watch people who go really all in on something. And it just happens to be haunted houses for Halloween. And what's so fascinating is I've grown up loving haunted houses and going to every horror attraction I could possibly go to, because my birthday's in October. So if you want to celebrate your my birthday, you have to go to a haunted house. And so my friends who don't even like them are crying and screaming. And I always love everyone's reactions anyway. But I started hearing about these extreme haunts. They were saying, have you heard of this one where the naked people waterboard you? I was like, no. They said, do you want to go? I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to that haunt. And then I kept hearing about crazier and crazier ones. And I was like, where is this demand coming from? Who's making them? What kind of person is dedicating their life to like creating true terror experiences? And what does the traditional haunted house world with the boo scare maces think of all this? And I put that together to make this movie. So the movie is like, it's funny. You get to laugh out loud because you get to meet everyone's spouse that I point a camera at, and you get to get their reaction. And then, of course, it goes from making you laugh to making you feel a little emotional and sentimental to shocking and disturbing and scary. And then hopefully by the end you feel strangely inspired, which is exactly how I feel when I go through a great haunted house. When I go through a haunted house, I laugh, I scream, I feel completely creeped out at least once. There's always at least that one toilet gag. It's like the smelly toilet. It's, even at Reign of Terror, which is a great traditional boo scare maze that we have out here, it's 100 rooms. But there's a toilet room that smells like poo in the water, and the water sprays on you. And you're like, why do they do that? And you're complaining for the next 2 minutes. Then some scare happens, you laugh, you feel good again. And by the time it's over, you've got a great story to tell. And I wanted one that ended with the opportunity for people to have a debate, have an argument, have a discussion about what's going on in the world of haunts and how far is too far.
It's strange, John. I'm probably the oldest one on this podcast right now and should have the most experiences with haunts and haunted houses, but I'm feeling like in this crowd, I definitely probably have the least. And now that it's Halloween, I see them popping up all over the place. Haunted. Every town probably has at least one or more.
A lot more.
And you know the whole gamut of what they are, and you were probably going for a specific type or maybe a few specific types. Can you tell us about your process for selecting the ones that were featured in the film? Because there's really, as I remember, there's some that are featured very prominently, and then there's maybe a handful of others that you give mention to. So what were the ones you focused on, and why was that?
Well, I actually, this whole film took 4 years, and I filmed about 250 hours of footage. So I have a ton of other stories. I have
Hunters too.
Well, look, I'd love to do a series because there's just too much for a movie. I mean, I think the problem with a movie is that you got to focus on a plot. If you want to have a good movie, you want to have a real kick-ass movie, you better have a plot.
At least a story.
Let's
right?
have a direction we're going in. I could have just my first cut did not have that. My first cut was like the Dio of haunted house movies. It was like, you want haunts? I got haunts. It was like, it should have been called Haunt-tastic. It was like every single haunt you could think of. And it got to the point where like 30 minutes in, it was overwhelming because you've already met like 10 haunts. And they all had great stories, but it was just too many fucking haunts. So what I had to do was like, I'm focusing on, all right, who's got a great story that's really emotional? And that's like, okay, so Donald. There's a guy in the movie named Donald Juleson. Wears the dark glasses. I've known him since the 6th grade. This is a guy who's been doing a haunted house in his mother's driveway for years. His whole family loves it, but his wife is like, this is your last year. Never again. We're done with this haunted house, because he spends all his time and money and vacation time, paid time off, is spent making that haunt. And I just know his background because I grew up with him, and I know that this scary haunted house brought his family together. It was I remember I grew up with this guy, and I mean, the police would come on Mother's Day to arrest people at this house. Okay, so let me tell you, like, when he first told me, my brothers are doing a haunted house with me, you should come. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near that place. Are you kidding? Your brothers attacked me when I was younger.
Right.
But then I saw, and I was like, wow, this is really, they're using something scary to bring a family together.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, that's a story. I need this story. And then it became, I was interviewing so many people. I'll be honest with you. I had plans for a different second story, but then I met Char Mayer, my favorite haunt monster. The first time I met her, she was in this show called Play Dead, the best live show I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of great live shows. Todd Robbins, one of my favorite storytellers ever, telling true stories about murderers. And as he's telling you these stories, he's creating these illusions. It's directed by Teller from Penn and Teller. So while he's doing all this stuff, at one point, Char appears and scares the audience. This was at the Geffen Theater. Everyone jumped out of their seats and screamed their head off when she appeared. She scared the shit, and she scared me. I freaked out. And then I got to meet her, and then we talked, and I did one interview with her, and I was like, oh my God, I have got to film more of her. And so she gives us the whole scare actor's perspective, and really is kind of the heart of the movie. And then, of course, Russ McKamey of McKamey Manor has the most extreme, horrific, extreme haunted house of all time. And I wanted to show that I wanted to show every single person in the movie in a non-judgmental way. I don't want to be, I didn't want to do voiceover. I didn't want to like tell you, this is how you should feel now. Because there are thousands of people all around the world that want to go to his haunt. What his haunt is, it's 8 hours. You have to sign a waiver. If you want to get out, he doesn't let you out. He waterboards you. He'll cover you in tarantulas. They'll do whatever they can to make you have the worst panic attack of your life, so he can videotape it for his little movies on YouTube. And some of his videos on YouTube have millions of views. And anyways, I was just always fascinated with who is making this, who is filming these videos, how did this even begin? And the more I got to know Russ, the more I was just fascinated by him. And I was, look, he's in the movie quite a bit for a reason, because he's doing, the guy spent over $500,000 building a crazy maze in his backyard, and he only charges you 2 bags of dog food or 4 cans of dog food. So like, that's intriguing. Yeah. So the movie ends up being a lot about society. And one in the history section, what we discovered that was so cool was people really do use horror as escape. We spent a lot of time researching. We found out that that Halloween, horror, and haunted houses, they always make money during times of war, chaos, economic problems. So like the first time Halloween really made a real ton of money was in 2001, right after September 11th. And then it was beat out by 2008, the financial meltdown, which is now going to be completely beat out by this year. 2017, Halloween is making $9.1 billion. That's over $1 billion more than last year. And it's proof that, like, look, when people are scared out of their minds, they turn on the news, they want to scream their heads off, they go to a haunted house to get that little bit of scarapy. I look at a kid at a restaurant, they're screaming on the floor, rocking back and forth, screaming. I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to do that right now. Please. Every time I'm listening to the radio, I'm like, oh, I can't listen to any of this.
Get that one on tape, yeah.
Yes. And then you see how we treat, Halloween. It's not a kitsch holiday. It's a chance to tap in with the American psyche, and it's a chance for us all to go out and have a good time, face our worst fears, and scream our heads off. And there's people who want to do it in the kind of traditional fun way. There's now the interactive theatrical ones, and there's ones that are so extreme that it really kind of blurs the line between simulation and true terror. So I'm glad that I was able to capture this moment in time, because it is fascinating.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what it was for me. John, was made the movie stand out for me, and I really loved it. Were the stories kind of at the heart of the movie, like you mentioned, at least those three. Russ's story, even though it may not be a likable story for some people, and you have Char's story, which I loved. A lot of emotion in that story. And then I'm sorry, the other gentleman's name, is it Don?
Donald.
Yeah, he and his wife, and seeing how it came together for them at the end. And I won't spoil anything, but yeah, that was really nice too to see. And in a movie that wasn't just, hey, here's this haunted house and here's what it is. You know what I mean? It was great to see that it had that extra dimension.
Yeah, no,
definitely. And for me, one of the things that's so interesting about this whole thing is and Jessica, this is for you actually. I feel like there's this really real, tangible connection between audiences who would enjoy not just horror films and the extreme haunted houses that we saw here, but just that whole blend, that full visceral version of horror that we got in this film and in these haunted houses. You're a filmmaker who focuses on that same visceral feel in the things that you've made. Can you tell us about any techniques or scare beats that you've seen utilized in really good haunted house design that you would say also applies to really good horror filmmaking?
I think honestly, for me anyways, it comes down to just being really clever with what you have. Any movie or any haunt can be really effective so long as you're aware of what you have access to, right? So much like a movie, if you have $100,000, you can't try to make a $3 million big scare. It's not going to sell. And a haunt is very much the same way. If you've only got $10,000 to make the haunt, you can't plan for a $4 million haunt when you don't have the stuff. One of the best ones that I've seen lately, honestly, was for the Haunters premiere. I forget his name momentarily. He's featured in the doc. John, you know his name. Donald set up a haunt within the same day, and it was just like this little squared box, but was it ever effective? And I'm assuming it wasn't a lot of money. It didn't feel like it had a huge production value. It was just really well done, very clever, and really well thought out. So again, it didn't take a lot of time. It didn't take a lot of money. It was just really, really well done. So, and I think also, hiring people that can do what they're doing really, really exceptionally well. Donald is somebody who doesn't need a lot of money to make an effective haunt, clearly. And also, shockingly, he didn't need a lot of time. When John first told me that they were going to do it the same day and get it up, I was like, oh, we'll see how good that is. But it was really great. It was really, really great.
Oh, he's so creative, and it was great. I have a great picture of you and Heather Dorff coming out, just screaming your heads off. Yeah. And I got a great one of John Murdy also from Universal Studios. It was just
running out.
Yeah, because it's so scary. They did a great job of creating these. They don't touch you. It's a traditional boo scare maze, but he puts the scares in places you just don't expect them. He's so creative and clever the way he creates it. It's so much fun.
That sounds
money can't buy clever.
That should be a bumper sticker right there.
Yeah, right.
Trademark it right now.
Especially this year, right? So.
Right.
Oh man. Well, Jessica, it was a total pleasure seeing you show up in the film being interviewed. We're oh my God, it's Jessica Cameron.
You're I know that girl.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
It was really, really awesome to see you. And I was kind of curious. So this idea of the extreme haunt, right? With the McCamey Manor, no safe word, no exit. I'm curious from your perspective, is this a ticking time bomb waiting to happen for other haunts? Do you feel like the controversy could be super impacting here?
I mean, I don't think it's a time bomb. I think it's a different audience, in my honest opinion. It's not the same person necessarily that's going to go to an extreme haunt. who's going to go to a very typical safe standard haunt. There could be some overlap, right? Like, so I could definitely see like the people that like the extreme stuff could potentially be okay with going to lesser extreme stuff, but getting a different something out of it. But that being said, I think that not everyone that goes to the regular haunt is going to want to go to the extreme stuff. I am awaiting the point where somebody goes too far and we get somebody hurt or killed. But again, I don't think that'll necessarily change it so much, as I think that we'll see more and more haunts just get better lawyers and better contracts. But I think also, you know, in the documentary, they touched on that as well. You know, McKamey Manor is doing a great job of that, where it's like, good luck trying to get out of that contract. You know,
well,
they've already done that.
But I'll say this much, you know, a waiver is a piece of paper you take to court when you sue somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
otherwise, it's doesn't hold much weight, right?
Exactly. I mean, the one thing that I thought was interesting when filming Russ was that I wanted to know who worked at the haunt. And because they always wear ski masks, you don't know who they are. And that's the thing I love about Shar. Shar is a monster, and when she works in the haunts too, she scares the crap out of people. But you always have the feeling that you're safe. But but it feels dangerous. And in McKamey Manor, it just feels really dangerous. It felt very dangerous when I was in there just filming. And so, you know, I want to know that the haunt that I'm in has a really strict vetting process. I don't like knowing that there's more regulations for someone that can operate an elevator than someone who can actually tie me up in a dark place. That's you know, I want to know that they've been vetted and that they went through an interview process. They've been trained. They know what they're doing. And
but for me, that's all part of the fun risk.
But that's you. I'm saying now. I love that I love that. I'm so honored to have Jessica in my movie because, you know, the one thing I love. I mean, I freaked out when I first met her at Screamfest years ago. I was like, and I even said screen actress Jessica Cameron because it's her Instagram account. And I was like, I have to say that to her. Like, it's screen actress Jessica Cameron. And then we just talked, and it was just fun because she does focus on the more visceral, extreme, you know, side of horror. And right now, the exciting part about now especially for haunts, is that for horror, there's like 1,000 subgenres of horror. So you have like everything from horror comedy to supernatural to torture porn and everything else in between. And now there's a haunt that represents every single type of subgenre. So there is an interactive experience for every single type of horror fans. When I hear people say things like, "Oh, those extreme haunts, those are they're disgusting, they're wrong, they've gone too far." Yeah, they say the same thing about Hostel or Truth or Dare or, like, you know, a lot of other really well-made, visceral, extreme experiences that are like Takashi Miike takes things and pushes it over the edge, because some of us want that feeling. The same people who are against extreme haunts, they'll go bungee jumping. Okay, fine. It's like everyone's got their own way of doing it and facing their fears. And I was really lucky to get Jessica, because it was great to hear her talking, especially in the history section. It was really nice to hear her talk in the history section, talking about moments in history and how they reflect and affect horror, because horror has always been a mirror of society. Now these interactive experiences are like our chance to be Alice in the Looking Glass. We can go right through that mirror and then see what it feels like for ourselves. And, you know, it's a real trip. You learned a lot about people doing this.
Yeah. Hey, John, we have one of those friends, and this is not like me, but he is into everything Halloween. Like, he decorates the house like crazy. He, you know, the pumpkin spice, everything. And he's also really knowledgeable and really into horror films. And franchises. And when I kind of gloated a little bit and said, "Oh, I was at Fantastic Fest, and guess what I saw? I saw Haunters, the Art of the Scare." He says, "Oh my God, you saw it? How was it?" I hope he, and this is the one thing he said that like caught me totally off guard. He said, "I hope he took that guy McKamey down a few pegs, because that guy is a total blankety blank." Yeah, like, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I had no idea, like, of the bigger controversy that's going on outside of your movie. Around that, and that a friend that I know, you know, was deeply involved in that, and said, "Oh yeah, that guy blocked me a long time ago, and I'm like, oh really?
he's blocked quite a few people.
Yeah,
but
my question is like, what has happened since the movie with regard to the McCamey situation, and has that evolved at all, either because of the movie or since the movie?
Well, nothing that's happened with him has happened because of the movie. Because he's look, if I wasn't filming him, he would still be making the most extreme, no safe word attraction. I mean,
Right.
how many times in the movie did I ask, when are you gonna have a safe word? Can you have a safe word? We mentioned the safe word a lot in the movie because I was having this weird delusion at one point he was gonna go, maybe I should have a safe word. I'm like, happy ending, boom, done. But it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. Russ is never
Right.
gonna do that, right?
Yeah.
So like the thing with Russ is, look, once I like even announced that he was going to be in the movie, I started getting crazy emails and
Did you get hate mail?
Oh, hey, phone calls too. People would get my phone number, or send me messages at 3 a.m, just like, what's wrong with you for having him in your movie? I'm like, what's wrong with you for using a voice disguiser and threatening me at 3 a.m? That's kind of creepy too, dude. Like honestly, the thing about it is he wanted to create an attraction that would scare the hell out of people, and that would scare people about the idea of the attraction. So yeah, guess what? People are going to have a reaction where it's like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Because every video, like when I first met him, he said, so how do you think I'll come off in the movie? I said, honestly, I think you're going to come off the way you come off. Like when I first saw his videos, I thought, this guy should probably be locked up. This man looks like an insane person, right? But that's what he's going for in his videos. In his videos, he's getting people screaming, help, help, let me out, let me out. You hear him going, I'm not letting you out. And it's like, who's doing this? Who's not letting them out? And I said, so they're probably going to start off by saying, oh my God, this person's crazy. And then the second time you come in, they'll probably go, crazier than I thought. And then the third time you come in, I hope to at least give them one moment where they get to empathize with him and with everybody that's in the movie. I hope there's at least one moment where you get to empathize with somebody in the movie. Because otherwise, what am I doing? I'm not here to exploit people. I want us all, especially in the world today, where we're just so quick to write people off. I want us all to look at the world through other people's eyes for a moment and empathize with them, because then, if we can connect to them on a human level, we might be able to understand what's going on here. And then at the end, I told them, I think half the people are going to want to burn your house to the ground, and the other half are going to want to go through it. And that's no different from how his YouTube comments are. Just like, saying those crazy reactions. And what I'm really proud of is Russ just watched the movie for his first time. And he was at the Alabama, the Sidewalk Film Festival in Alabama. And they live streamed his reaction, and they Skyped me in.
Oh, wow.
And I was just so like, I don't know how he's going to react to this.
Were you petrified? Yeah.
Oh, of course. I was nervous about, about everyone who's in the movie, because I want to make sure I filmed these people for years. And more than anything, my entire goal was to capture them as they are, which is the hardest thing to do. And sometimes in these interviews you watch that they're on real short, that's an 8-hour interview or a 6-hour interview, so that the camera can disappear and we can connect. And my whole goal was like, I really want them to say that this is how they really are in life. But I don't know what they're going to say, because we showed off everything, including all the certain secrets of McCamey Manor that he let me show off, from people who work there to what they do. He loved it. And he even said, that's exactly how I am. That's exactly the haunt. Wow. You captured it exactly as it is. Like he was afraid I was going to make him into some bad guy. But what's funny is some people who watch it go, why did you make him into a bad guy? Other people who watch it, are saying, it's a love letter. You wrote a love letter to this haunt. I'm just like, you know what? I just showed everybody the way they are. It's not a hit piece. It's not an expose. I'm just trying to open the door to a subculture and let you go deeper into the Halloween subculture than anyone's ever gone before. You get to go through his experience without having to go through his experience, which I think, I wish I didn't have to go through the experience to get that footage, because that was really crazy. But it was amazing to get everyone's stories, and even people who went through it who liked it, and the people who went through it who hate it all said the same thing, that especially at the end of the movie, when you go through it and the music kicks in, they go, oh my God, it's exactly how it feels. You get this kind of panic attack feel. So what's happened since is now Russ is no longer in San Diego. Russ is he has apparently
Heather Valley or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's in Alabama, Nashville, and I think somewhere in Kentucky. He's got 3 locations. But the thing is this, I only believe it if I see it, because I remember in San Diego, he told me he had 4 locations, and I get down there and it was all in his backyard. He's like, everyone thinks I got all these different locations. So like he's like P.T. Barnum at times. He's trying to sell the show. But he's
great.
And then cops are still coming after him. Neighbors are still coming after him. Of course they are. They hear people screaming for help. Why wouldn't they come after him? But then Jessica, I was really surprised at Jessica's reaction at the end of the movie. At the premiere. Tell them.
Both Heather and I both were like, so our takeaway from this is that we want to do McKinney Manor.
That's the takeaway. That's your takeaway.
Like, we were both of us were like, oh hell yeah. Like,
wow.
There's always at least a handful of people at the end of a screening who are like, you know how I can get to go? I didn't expect it to be Jessica, because it's like, really, the fact that there's no safe word. Russ is now claiming.
But here's the thing: like, I have not had the easiest life. I'm an adult orphan, married a fiance, like the whole 9 yards. So I'm kind of like, do I have a breaking point? I mean, I haven't hit it yet.
Let's test it.
Say something like fucked up about me that I also kind of want to go through one of these, and maybe it's just because like I'm a horror head as well. Like this whole like exploration of this subculture, this subgenre excites me so much. You said you set out to make a kick-ass movie kind of earlier, and you did, and that works for me on a personal level as a horror fan. But I think it's not just me. Haunters is now out for mass consumption, and it's getting a lot of really, really great buzz. So, John, what's next for you?
Well, actually, it's been really. It's been a trip. Like, honestly, even showing it for the first time at Fantastic Fest, I freaked out, because I've been working on this in this room for like 4 years, and so just hearing people reacting to it in the theater and laughing at the right parts and screaming at the right parts, and some people were just going, "That's just too much for me," and so watching someone walk out because it was just to cross the line, I'm like, "This is amazing!" This was like the greatest feeling ever. So, I mean, I'm already, and the reviews have been so great. I just feel it's been a really amazing experience. But I also have a virtual reality experience that's out right now too. Because while I was in the post-production for Haunters, I was also doing, I directed, produced, co-developed, the whole shebang, an amazing virtual reality experience called Flatline Experience, where you go through somebody's near-death experience in virtual reality, and it's a true story. And it's a trip. I worked with some of my favorite artists. The creative team included 3D Live. These guys worked on Avatar. They've worked on, like, they do amazing work. So we all got together. So a lot of the musicians that worked on my movie got on board with the VR also. So the sonic landscape was so great. There was a lot of great people who worked on that. And if you go to flatlineexperience.com, you can see where you can get it. But if you go to thebrainfactory.com, you can see some of the behind the scenes of how it was done. So what I'm working on now is I'm number one trying to do a series for Haunters. I would love a series for Haunters.
As would we. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I want to do so badly is, look, I have nothing against other haunt shows that have existed before, but the thing is, there's always been a kind of lovable loser angle to them, or like, kind of kitsch, and I look at haunt creators as these are real artists. You have to be a director, a producer, a visionary. You have to be a casting director, a promoter. You have to there's so many things you have to be able to do. And there's so many haunts that we couldn't get into the movie. So if you get the Blu-ray, the DVD, or get it on iTunes, it comes with 30 minutes of bonus features. And you get to spend a lot more time with Delusion, the interactive haunted house play. The guys who built the giant skull, Haunted Overload,
yes.
Get to hang out with them a lot more. You get into John Murdy, who's the creative director of Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. You see the first haunt he ever did when he was a kid in the 70s. It was the year Star Wars came out. He made his own Star Wars haunted house, and he made the costumes, and he shows the pictures. Slash from Guns N' Roses in the bonus features. He made it in the movie for like a blip. And I have an interview with him in the bonus features. and we have more Blackout, the actual origin story of Blackout, how they got started. So, but then I still have a ton more footage. I have a lot more footage, and more haunts have been reaching out to me from Japan. There's a haunt in Japan. I can't even get over the stuff that they were telling me that they do. I couldn't believe it. I believe it now. They've shown me some stuff. And there's even a haunt that you see for a moment at the end called the 17th Door. But this year is the best year 17th Door has ever had. It's a mix between an extreme haunt and an interactive theatrical experience. It's a prison theme. Jessica, you're gonna love this one. You gotta go.
I've heard this. You're not the first person to tell me I have to go see this one.
This was like, they start off with a virtual reality experience that you have to do. The VR made me scream my head off because you're strapped to a metal chair, and then it starts, and the things you see you also feel. And I was like, oh my god, it was just horrific. Then you get out and you enter this prison. And it's a prison-themed extreme haunt. Wow. If you sit in the barber's chair, he'll shave your head. They warn you about that. I'm like, I'm not sitting in that chair. But then there's times where you're climbing, you're crawling, you're going through flooding water, you're dealing with like shock panels, and like when it was over, it felt like the greatest adventure. I couldn't believe it. And and since the movie, like we've been getting Darren Lynn Bousman reached out to me, and he saw it on iTunes. He loved it. We went out to dinner, and he also does his own incredible, extreme, and interactive haunt called the Tension Experience. Now it's coming back as
called the Lust Experience.
That's right. Now it's the Lust Experience. Oh, but yeah, he's doing stuff. He's blazing his own trail. He is doing something that's very new and very fresh. And he just kept saying, "I watched your movie, and I identified with everything." He's like, all that stuff has happened to me. And so
side note, pause. Would it not be great to get like a bunch of like horror directors to do McKamey Manor?
They wouldn't do it. You know they won't. I
bet I could talk. I bet you Bousman might do it.
Bousman won't. There's no way. Because it's like, and he told me something that was really interesting too. Probably I shouldn't be sharing this, but I'll tell you, why not? He's not gonna,
right here on the Movie Bears podcast, everybody.
I think he's gonna be fine with it. The thing that he told me was, when he's like, when I go to haunts, I'm the director of like Saws 2, 3, and 4. So when I go to a haunt, they go way harder on me, and I totally understand what he means, because like when I was at 17th Door, we go into this one cell, and there's like a masked character who comes out and goes, "Well, hello, Mr. Schnitzer." I go to haunts now. They know my name, they know the movie, and they know that I did stuff at McKamey Manor, so like they want to really try to traumatize me. But at least they have a safe word, so if it gets to be too much, which it usually does, I can at least scream the safe word. But it's pretty fun. So yeah, hopefully we get to do a show. I got a lot of other really cool projects and some more virtual reality that I like to work on too.
Well, that would be fantastic if you did get a series. That's something I would watch for sure.
It'd be so much fun.
Jon and Jessica, I mean, it's been so great having you with us. I know we're kind of running up against time, and we respect that. But we just want to ask for any of our listeners out there who want more, they want to connect with you guys, they want to see what's coming up with the projects. Jon, where can people find you online? How can they do that?
Okay, so actually, you can go to the website, hauntersmovie.com. So if you go to hauntersmovie.com, you'll see the reviews. You go to hauntersmovie.com/buy. You can see where you can buy it. And you can see the trailer for the movie, but you can also see the trailer for the bonus features, which is crazy. Like when you see what's in the bonus features, you're gonna be like, oh my god, the bonus features are fucking nuts.
30 minutes more movie. I mean,
boom.
I'm getting a Blu-ray. That's it.
Oh yeah, and it's not even like it's more movie. It's like you go deeper with these haunts, and you get to really hang out with. Like we have the Los Angeles Haunted Hayride in the bonus features, and you get to see Melissa Carbone in a creative meeting, having like this kind of argument with Justin Meyer, who's the haunter. They're fighting over what the scares are going to be, and then you get to see what that conflict created. So it's a beautiful work of art. It's actually absolutely incredible. And so yeah, I'm really excited about those special features. So yeah, hauntersmovie.com, and if you go to Facebook, you'll find us at Haunters the Movie.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely include some handy-dandy links for you listeners in the show notes to take you right there. Make sure you do. Jessica, oh my gosh, gotta say, been loving Scream Queen stream. Such goodness seeing you and Heather. Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can they catch up with what's going on with you and connect?
Well, as you may or may not know, I'm hella active on all my socials. You can find me at Jessica Cameron _ on Twitter, at actress Jessica Cameron on Instagram, and then Jessica Cameron on Facebook. Also, you hit the nail on the head. I'm all over YouTube right now. I believe that video footage is going to be the way of the future. So I do a show with my best friend where we just basically drink too much and have too much fun, and then film it.
Queen Mary.
Because right, all over the place. I'm like, and the reality of the matter is, this is how we always are. It's just before the show, I never had a reason to film it and share it with the world, and now I do, and it's kind of fun. So you can check us out on Scream Queen Stream on YouTube, and then I do my own little YouTube channel as well called Inside My Indie Life, which is literally the most random shit ever. It's like Q&As, it's like awesome people, it's hair and makeup shit. It's just whatever I'm like doing that day where I'm like, I should film this. It's a compilation of my dog being cute because I felt like the world needed more Solomon that day. So stay tuned there.
I love his little growl, by the way.
Right? He's always growling. He has like a million growls. He's like the dog version of Heather. If you've met Dorf, she's like always grumpy. And like all like when we travel, spoiler, I'll like we'll share a bed and I'll wake up and I'm always like perky because I'm like, yes, it's a new day. We get to live our lives. It's glorious. Let's make today awesome. And she's just like, rrr. So I actually want to do like a comparison video because Solomon is the same way in the morning. I'm like, Solomon, it's time to wake up. We get to go have fun. He's like, oh.
You should record his growl and then like put it into the footage of Heather waking up in the morning.
I feel like her growl is equally awesome.
Oh, there we go. As if on
right on cue. Awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, Jon and Jessica, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. Definitely will be getting the word out about Haunters, the Art of the Scare, to our listeners. Those of you who are listening at home, either live, and we do see some of you in the chat. We apologize. The chat's been moving a mile a minute. Sometimes we didn't quite get to you guys and your thoughts. Sorry, but the conversation was just so great. But you were with us in spirit, guys, so we appreciate that. Jon, you see what I did there. Jon, thank you again so much for being here. Man, it was so great to sit down and talk with you, Jessica, as well. We hope to catch up to you guys again very soon.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Stay bloody, guys.
Stay bloody.
Got a head start. We got to
stay
catch up.
slutty or stay bloody?
I don't have a head start. I've got a head wound.
I mean, it depends on the day. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Why not?
Days are when it's both.
Yeah.
Jon, real quick, someone in the chat just asked, where did you get that crazy, awesome Killer Clowns hat?
Oh, isn't this the greatest? It's London 1888. They make some of the coolest shit. London 1888. They do the Killer Clowns hat. They're the ones who do the Freddy Dare to Keep Kids Off Drugs shirt with the needle fingers. They do the Jason Friday 13th game where it says, all your friends are dead. They do a lot of really cool shit. But the Killer Clowns hat, I went nuts when I saw that. I was like, I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. There's even a theater. There's a theater in LA that's going to be doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space with an orchestra.
Wow.
I know that I'm excited about. But tomorrow I'm going to go to John Carpenter's doing a live show, and he's doing the music from his movies live. And
that's awesome.
Are you going to go, Jessica? Are you going to go?
I mean, so I've already seen John Carpenter live.
I saw we saw it last year.
Yeah. So I will see. It's scheduled now is a tricky thing.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, listen, total pleasure. Thank you again so much for taking the time. We will see you next time. Bye. Guys. Thanks, Jon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh my gosh, they were so awesome. Love sitting down with them like that. That was crazy.
God, I wish we had like 3 hours with them.
Oh my God.
Right?
Like this is, I mean, like you said, like this is a great time of year for us. Like I'm a haunted house. Like we used to run one as a kid, like where people would go through and they would like do the peeled grapes that are eyeballs and all of that stuff. So just this like both excited me as a horror fan, but also like hit my nostalgic bone in a great way. I love those two so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I tell you, I didn't get a chance to talk about this because I like wanted to hear like them and not myself talk. But like I don't really go to scary like attractions very much because I get easily scared by like people jumping out at me and but Haunters actually made me like want to go do a very like mild one. We're talking like one that's like geared for like the Golden Girls or something to go through and not have heart attacks. That would be my speed.
Brad, I'm gonna preemptively sign you up for something if schedules align next year. We've got this thing here. It's about 2 hours from where I live. It's this. They take the Renaissance Fair and they turn it for the entire month of October into a haunted, Ren Fair thing. They have like 4 or 5 haunted houses there, and you can just like for $20 you go there and you walk through and you walk into this house and walk into that. You eat the turkey on a stick. You do karaoke, and the scares are not so bad that you can't do them, but it's fun and there's like cool stuff to do in between. And it's right after Fantastic Fest, so if you come visit me again next year, we can just drive up one evening and have a blast with that. So just thinking ahead.
Sounds good to me. I mean, can we have alcohol there? Is that allowed?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Do they sell alcohol?
They sell alcohol there. Now, like their selection is like they have like beer and they do like a pretty crazy good peach Bellini randomly.
Oh,
like
I'm sold.
So I'm walking around there just like, oh, there's a guy jumping out of the bushes, and also I'm loving this peach Bellini.
Right. Oh goodness. Well, Jim, I totally agree. I think we probably could have talked with them for like 2 more hours, but big thanks to Jon Schnitzer and Jessica Cameron for coming on, talking to us about Haunters, The Art of the Scare. Believe it or not, we have a whole nother movie to talk about. What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this episode is also the last episode. It's the last episode of our Halloween horror month. And we, for better or not, have a horror movie to talk about this week. That, of course, being Jigsaw, the newest film in the Saw franchise. So, guys, what do you think? Are we ready to dive in?
I'm ready, for sure.
I feel like we need like a very elaborate and overly complicated way of getting us into this death trap. But yeah, let's do it.
I want to play a game.
Oh God! I'm thinking of that like Living with Jigsaw video. I don't know if you ever saw that. Will
it actually? They played it right before the movie, so I hadn't seen it before, but it was a great way to kind of ease into it.
In order to get to the main movie review, you must first cross a sea of razor blades, and it's a little like Bic razors. Awesome. Anyway, here we go. We're going to kick things off spoiler-free at first for just a few minutes. We're going to abbreviate the fuck out of this shit. And then we'll give you warning before we go to spoiler town. So if you're on the fence about Jigsaw, we'll let you know what we think that may be helpful. And then we'll give you a warning before spoilers. All that said, Jim's yawning because it's like fucking 12 a.m. his time.
No, it isn't that late.
Well, it's edging toward that ever so slightly.
Is it really? I don't even know what time it is.
It's like 10:30 or
shit.
It's like 10:30.
Yeah. But you've also been traveling and stuff.
I got lots to do still. So yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, in any event, lots to do. I wonder what that means. In any event, here we go. Our discussion of Jigsaw. All right. So, Will, I don't know that I could say any of us were super excited necessarily to see this movie, but maybe you could give us just the basic setup. I mean, it's Saw. We all know Saw, what's coming. But just maybe give us your initial thoughts. Was this worth checking out? Was it fun to go see near Halloween? What do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of right down the middle in terms of like excitement on this one going in because this is, while it's called Jigsaw, this is Saw 8. This is the 8th film in this franchise. This film does not try. This is not a reinvention or a reimagining or a reboot or anything like that, which you might think it is based on the new titling. They just called it Jigsaw because it's been 7 years and they wanted to make sure people didn't feel like they were left out. Historically, I've somewhat enjoyed the Saw movies. As far as torture porn goes, there are a lot that I consider to be a little lazier in terms of just like, let's just get to the chop 'em ups and that's it. There's something about this franchise that always tries to have like something smart or clever going on, and whether it does or does not work, just the fact that the writers put that attempt in there and that they put this like degree of like continuity, like little minor things pay off in later films. Like, I appreciate that. So here we are with Saw 8, aka Jigsaw, and we've got these dead bodies popping up around town that have all been a part of a brand new game that has been apparently designed by the Jigsaw killer himself. But wait a minute, this dude died like 10 years ago. What's going on? We're going to figure it out with the help of a few detectives and a few kind of medical personnel who are
forensic dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to put this puzzle piece together. And so if someone were to ask me, like, did you like this film? I think I would turn around and ask them a question, and that question would be, on average, taking out the fact that some of them, like 1 and 6, are well above the others, just on average, do you like the Saw movies? And if your answer is yeah, I mostly like them, then I think yeah, you're mostly gonna like this movie. I think if your answer to that question is nah, I'm not really into that stuff, I don't think you're gonna like this film. And I think that's by design. I think the filmmakers tried to keep it fairly close to the formula in a lot of ways. There's some things that work really well in this. I think the way they try to tie some continuity things together is to be commended. There's some things that don't work as well. The dialogue is at times pretty fucking awful. But this is again, if you want a horror movie, if you want the Saw franchise, if you're excited for it to be back in any way, shape, or form, yeah, it's a soft recommend. It does what it does well enough. It doesn't do it great. It's not one of the better ones in the franchise, but it's good enough. But if the idea of another Saw movie automatically turns you off, skip it. It's not for you.
All right. That's a good way of couching that, Will. Absolutely. Jim, do you feel similarly to Will? I mean, because you're kind of new to this franchise. You didn't see any of the previous films, right?
I've seen bits and pieces of some of the movies, enough to know the very general concepts of the movies. But yeah, I actually do feel like Will. I think that people who are invested in this series will probably like this movie, even though I don't think it's a well-made movie. I don't think it's a well-written movie. I think it's now I think it's a confusingly it tries to to misdirect the audience and thing, but I think that may be part of the lure of this franchise. And the fact that I hadn't seen any of the movies, I was way misdirected even more and confused and even more than people who would be familiar with it. So yeah, I think if you're a fan and you like some of the other movies, this one is probably a fine time at the movie theater around Halloween. You want to go on a nice movie night, I think it's fine. But for people like me who are looking maybe for something edgy in terms of its scares and maybe well done in terms of that, I think this movie is just too much. It looks like too much of the same old thing. Very cartoonish gore and scares, I think, in this movie. Nothing that made me really tense or nervous. First of all, I didn't care for anybody in this movie. I mean, anybody. There wasn't really this was a movie where there wasn't really like a protagonist in this movie, really. I mean, that anybody we could really get behind and care for. There were some characters set up at the beginning of the movie that go through some things, but even them, I really didn't connect with any of them. And I think that's part of why I didn't connect with the movie. I need something to grab onto. And if I don't have the lore, because I didn't see it, and I don't have a connection to the characters, there's really not much there for me. So this is a pass for me and people like me who probably aren't involved in the, haven't been involved in the franchise. So it's a pass.
All right. Well, for me, I got to say, I think I'm feeling what you guys are feeling. This movie wasn't great. if you're looking for something fun and scary at Halloween, the best thing to do would be to see it with a big crowd, I think, if you can. Maybe there's some Halloween screenings that you could go to. I don't know. We went over the weekend. I was expecting a big crowd. The movie was, I don't know, maybe half full in the theater.
Maybe.
And there was some fun, like people were jumping and stuff going on, but it wasn't like on the level of something, say, like, I don't know, when we went to see the newest Annabelle movie. That movie was terrible, but people were like freaking out in their seats, and it was awesome. I will say, though, one thing I did really like here, I just completed a rewatch of all 10 seasons of Smallville. And so I was prepped and ready to go, not even realize going into this movie that Laura Vandervoort, who plays Supergirl on Smallville, was the lead female actress in this film. So when she comes on screen, I'm like, oh my God, it's Kara, it's Supergirl, what? But then it kind of pulled me out of the movie a little bit because like shit's happening. I'm like, why doesn't she just like blast the saw blade with her heat vision? What? And then I'm like, oh, right. But again, I had just watched like 10 seasons of Smallville in the span of like 2 months. So
side note, I would watch the fuck out of exactly that, like Supergirl and / or like that genre, like trying to escape like a supervillain Jigsaw thing. Like, so let's get on that, Brad. Let's write that. That's gold.
We're gonna tweet the CW right now because Supergirl just aired. We're gonna be like, all right, we know it's not Laura Vandervoort anymore. It's Melissa Benoist, but like, can we do like a supervillain Jigsaw thing with her? I think they'd eat it up. Will maybe next year's Halloween special,
the Halloween spooktacular.
Maybe. In any event, it was fun seeing Laura Vandervoort back in action doing something. I mean, I guess I could look at IMDb, but like seriously, I know she's guest starred on a couple episodes of Supergirl as a villain, but beyond that, I don't really know what else she's done over the last 10 years. So definitely good to see her here. Outside of that, there's one other actor that I want to talk about, but I'm going to save it for a little bit later. But I mean, I would say it's fun if you want to go for semi-scare Halloween, but otherwise just fucking skip it, maybe rent it if you're mildly curious about a new Saw movie after all this time. But I mean, it's kind of a pass for me. Guys, anything else non-spoiler before we just go ahead and dig into our spoiler section?
Yeah, just a little disclaimer. I may be being too harsh on this movie, knowing it was probably the last kind of horror movie of the Halloween season that we'll get, and we didn't get this year either a Paranormal Activity movie or a Purge movie, and I'm pissed about both of those.
I am also pissed about Paranormal Activity and The Purge.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's Will. I'm not believing you.
I'm just pissed that they exist.
I gotta say that nothing. Like, I don't know. Maybe we would have been better off. Will probably doesn't think so, but we'd probably been better off if we had gotten one of those movies that we could dive into. But we didn't get that this year. So sometimes
you gotta review the movie that you're given.
That's right. That's right.
Jigsaw is the movie we deserve, not the movie we want. Anyway,
something pork chop from the universe. Yeah,
I'm Batman. Anyway, all right. So here we go. Spoilers for Jigsaw are officially fair game. If you don't want to be spoiled, you know the drill. Go ahead and step away. Refer to the handy dandy show notes. Find that time index if you're listening on digital tape delay. Go ahead and skip ahead to plugs. You don't want to miss those at the end if you're listening live. We're glad to have you guys here. Welcome. Say hi in the chat, but we're going to go ahead and just take the lid off spoilers. Where the fuck do you guys want to start on spoilers?
The twist. Like, I think that's the big thing that we could not talk about before. One of the things that worked and didn't work and then worked again for me was the big twist on this one. We've been wondering, like, well, how come these murders have happened again? Because John Kramer's supposed to be dead, and we've got, he's got these disciples, but, like, it's straight up his DNA involved in this. Like, and so what we end up finding out is that this was a death trap thing that had been set up in the past and was paying off in a very specific way now here in the present. And so this actually reminds me of something from last week's review. I was able to pick up on this happened in the past, like that twist really early on. Like that was something that, but last week we talked about how like sometimes a twist, like when you see it coming, like we talked about with last week's review of The Snowman, how sometimes it can still be a rewarding watch and sometimes it can take you out of the movie. I still kind of enjoyed watching this twist, even knowing what was coming, because I wanted to see how they executed it, because this is a kind of a batshit crazy twist that they're going with. Like, I was wondering if they were going to like freeze the bodies and do some sort of like take them out of cryo-freeze. And the fact that they were just doing like a body substitution thing in the present was like, oh, okay, cool. That's an interesting and rewarding enough payoff for that. So, and it plays off with the aesthetic. We get to see, since it's in the past, we get to see less elaborate death traps for the most part, sort of set in this more rustic barn-looking thing. All of that told the story that they were trying to tell in a way that pulled me, even if not like fully back in, it pulled me a little bit back into this franchise. This is a franchise that every year for Halloween, my group of friends, like my husband at the time, like that's what we did. Like we went and we saw these movies. And I think that there's going to be some people who are going to be excited about that. Like their Halloween tradition of going and watching just some fucked up shit, like at least this year that's back. So yeah, the twist, predictable, but I still wanted to see how it played out. Like, so I kind of liked it even though it wasn't good. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, definitely does. Jim, as a newcomer to the Saw franchise, I mean, what about the twist for you? I mean, obviously you haven't seen the first films and all the lead up to this. Was that interesting at all, or
I guess it was kind of interesting to see. I guess what we're seeing was the original guy, right, in flashback. Kind of, and I forget, was he like bringing along a protege, or how did that get set up with this new guy that is the new Saw guy? Because this is almost kind of like a reboot in a way, right? Because don't we have a new guy now?
And that's one of the things they did with the franchise, watching them all the way through. The same guy only really did the things for like the first like 3-ish movies, and then he had all of these disciples that he kept like kind of churning through, and none of the disciples was as good as him in different ways. And then there was also some movie magic where he would set up a trap and then like randomly like 2 fucking years later like it would pay off. Like some of that's just like flights of fantasy stuff, but the disciple thing they've been building up for the last, honestly, since like 2.
Question, can we call them his disciples?
Oh my god, yes. If no one's made that joke before, then I feel like, you know, they need to have a change of heart and an elaborate death trap. Because the fact that you came up with that just now and I haven't heard that before, like, I love it. Yeah, go for it. They're disciples.
Speaking of a change of heart, JP in chat says that, Jim, some of that disciple stuff was set up in that change of heart scene that didn't make any fucking sense, JP says. JP, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about why you think that. But yeah, so we kind of get this reveal, right? That the new guy like fucked up the MRI scans or whatever, mislabeled them, and he was gonna get killed in the Saw game, and the guy took pity on him, right? Let him go, taught him how to be a disciple, and now he's doing it all 10 years later. I guess my question for you guys is, does this mean we're going to get like a whole new slew of Jigsaw movies, now that we've kind of got a new guy anchoring it?
I would be okay with that, but the problem we run into is, and this is getting into the other Saw movies a little bit, but here we are. One of the things that worked so well about that series as a whole is we've got this weird fucked up code of ethics that John Kramer himself follows. And every one of his disciples after has followed a messed up version of it. Like they've made these like death traps that people can't escape, and they've all had to pay their comeuppance because John Kramer predicted it and pulled them out of it. Well, this is well after the fact. He's been dead for a long time, and our new disciple also broke that rule here in this movie with the final detective. And so we don't have anyone to enforce that code of ethics. So I want to see more of these because I mean, again, it's like a Halloween tradition, and it's like it's a really gory, fucked up popcorn movie. But I'm just wondering how they can do it without it losing like that weird kind of backbone that the others have all had.
So if he doesn't have this code of ethics, if he's not like surgically using the saw, does that make him Jigsawzall?
Jigsaw's all, saws all.
Oh,
Get it?
boy.
Because he saws
Oh, boy.
all. There's no mercy. He's coming for everybody.
Yeah, and go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
I had a question about the movie, the way the setup of the movie, and the new guy and the old guy, and so the previous guy, because I hadn't seen any of the movies, but I guess he was kind of torturing people who he felt had it coming. Yeah, is that his thing? And
Yes, right.
So was he torturing the guy who misdiagnosed his cancer? Was that what he was doing at the beginning?
Yeah.
But then he's the only one that he let go?
Well,
like, I'm not sure how that makes sense.
I think I get why that happened, and
I mean, it was explained in 2 lines or whatever.
So this is early John Kramer. He's done only a few of these death traps here, and he fucked this one up. Like this is one of the first times we've seen him like legit fuck up. Like everyone else woke up before getting pulled into the saw blades, but that one guy stayed unconscious. And his code of ethics is that everything has to be fair. And the fact that the guy wasn't awake to hear the rules was unfair. And so that's why he ran in real quick, stopped him. And at that point, and this is the part where they skimmed past it too quickly. Like, I get why he spared him, but the part where they made him the disciple and he had his, like, you know, his change, that part was kind of glossed over. It went straight to, okay, now you're helping me do this shit.
Now you're the bad guy.
Yeah. Like, I would have liked, I understand the reasoning for why he was spared. I wish we had seen a little bit more as to what made him make that change.
Yeah, because it would make way more sense if, like, maybe instead of just killing him in the game, he just kept him and like tortured him or something for a while to like
put him in the game again,
right? Or something that like made the MRI tech like want to get into being, you know what I mean, part of what's going on. It just seems like a quick switch from like, oh, here's this innocent dude that like accidentally switched the MRI results to now I'm gonna fucking kill you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, I don't know that we have much more to talk about with this movie. Anything else that you wanted to touch on before we move on to some plugs?
Nah, this is kind of this movie is exactly what it is. This is, I just kind of impromptu did a ranking of all the Saw movies in the live chat, and I think I've come to the conclusion that, at least for me personally, this one is exactly in the middle. So take that for what it is. Like, it's not the worst of the franchise. It's not the best. It is exactly a Saw movie, and if you exactly want exactly a Saw movie, great. If not, like I said before, not for you.
All right. Babe, anything else from you?
No, I agree with you guys. Like I said, if you're not already a devotee of the Saw movies, this one's probably not going to be a good jumping in point.
All right. Well, let's move along to some plugs, the part of the show where we share things with you that we're actually excited to talk about. Jim, what have you got for our listeners this week?
Glad. Well, I mean, we finally got to see the Florida Project, and maybe we'll talk about that on another show. I will definitely urge anyone who hasn't seen it to see it, though. That's all I will say about it right now. But I saw a little documentary on Netflix, I believe, called Too Funny to Fail, The Life and Death of the Dana Carvey Show. This was a documentary about a TV comedy, skit comedy series that was on in the 90s, right after Dana Carvey's success on Saturday Night Live as, you know, the church lady and Hans and Franz and all that cool stuff. He actually started his own show with comedy writers Robert Smigel, who we know from the Ambiguously Gay Duo and It Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog. Other people like Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell got their start on this show that 7 episodes before it was yanked from primetime network TV. It's a pretty fascinating show. Some pretty funny stuff was in the show, really cutting edge. comedy, especially for network TV. It's called Too Funny to Fail: The Life and Times of the Dana Carvey Show. I'd recommend you watch this one if you're interested in how comedy works and how sketch comedy comes together. Really good stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I had no idea that Stephen Colbert and man, his name was just in my brain. Steve Carell got their start on that show. I was watching. I think I came in like a third of the way through the doc or something, and I was like, "Is this archival footage? Like, is this the daily? What the fuck is this?" Like, you know. So it was pretty interesting. Will, what have you got this week?
Oh goodness. Yeah. Okay. The one that I want. Well, there's a couple. Like I was like, but I figure we're probably going to get a chance to talk about Creep 2 at some point. So I'm going to talk about something else. Found footage 3D. So there's this movie out right now. By right now, it's on Shudder. So if you have like an Amazon Amazon account, like, and you have the Shudder channel, which has some like badass like horror stuff on it. You can find this movie. There's a 2D version and a 3D version of it. And the premise of it is it's a found footage movie where these filmmakers want to make the first 3D found footage horror movie. So their found footage is them recording themselves making a found footage movie. Bear with me. And they want to do it in 3D because the producer is like super excited about these new 3D cameras. So like, fuck it, let's go with it. And because of this, you find out through the course of it that there's some sort of weird evil thing that exists within the 3D, within the film itself, that's kind of sneaking into their behind the scenes footage and probably going to cause mayhem. It's a found footage movie. Found footage movies are very hit or miss with me, probably falling more in the miss category. A lot of them have been churned out and just kind of sloppily, but this one was very, very, very cleverly written. It knew exactly what it was going for, and it played into all of the strengths of the genre so where at times it gets meta with its referential stuff for what found footage is, without being like too cheekily so. I quite enjoyed this movie, and it's on Shudder, so if you like, you can watch it from your house right now. I watched the 2D version. But I think if you have like a 3D TV and a 3D like glasses at your house, like you can watch that version. That's what people saw theatrically, was the 3D version. I missed that, but even in 2D, it's a really, really effective horror movie. Found footage 3D, check it out.
All right, awesome. Well, for me this week, my plug is going to be something we're going to see this next weekend, Jim, I think. And this next coming weekend, we are going to be seeing this movie with like 13 of our bestie buds in Palm Springs. We're renting a house with a bunch of chubs and bears and chasers, and definitely going to be a fun weekend. Exactly. Were you just channeling Dustin from Stranger Things?
I've been making that damn noise for the last 2 or 3 days. No
I figured.
So, yeah,
I figured. Thanks for showing us those pearls. In any event, I'm speaking of Thor Ragnarok, and I'm so pumped for this movie. Out of all the Marvel movies, I think the Thor films have been some of the more enjoyable ones for me. But also just being able to see it with a ton of our friends that we really only get to see maybe a couple times a year. Sharing a love of movies really, really excites me. So I imagine we're going to be talking Thor Ragnarok on next week's show. So definitely go out and see it. Guys, we can talk about it. Maybe we could pair it with Creep 2 as sort of like a Halloween spillover or something, if you want.
Super down with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're on board with that too, babe, we could totally do a double feature. But yeah, go see Thor Ragnarok. And just a quick note about next week. So we will not be recording in our regularly scheduled Monday night time slot because Will be on his way back from BlizzCon. And Will, I know you're super excited about that. We'll be on our way back from Palm Springs. So we are going to record Tuesday evening instead. And that's going to be at, that's a time jump, right? Because the time changes. So we're going to be recording at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 6:30 p.m. our time. Will, that's 7:30 p.m. your time.
Okay.
Right. So it should still keep it at the same time for us, sort of, kind of.
It keeps,
but for
if you live in Arizona,
shifts.
it's the same time. If you live anywhere else, just it's an hour before.
Yeah. So keep that in mind when you tune in Tuesday. We won't be recording on Tuesdays permanently, just for next week. But there will be a time shift because y'all change your clocks and we don't. So you'll want to remember to tune in an hour earlier. Guys, the show has gotten long, but it was an amazing show. Oh, my God. Jon Schnitzer and Jessica Cameron. So pumped to be able to
love them so much.
Man, yeah, that was awesome. I'm so glad that they came on board and chatted with us. Guys, we'll have some links in our show notes so that you can find Jon and Jessica and Haunters, The Art of the Scare. You can find that really badass Hellraiser like pillow that Jessica had. But Jim
the hat,
and Will,
don't forget the hat.
And the hat, don't forget the hat. Definitely Jim and Will want to let people know where they can interact with us online. Before we do that, though, just a quick shout out to everyone that's been in the chat with us. We know it's been a crazy show. We were kind of replying to folks in the chat. We didn't get to do a lot of it on the show like normal. I hope our lack of doing that is forgivable given the awesome interview that we had up front earlier. But big shout out to JP and Steve and Robert and Bobby Miller and Mike and all the other guys that were in the chat with us tonight. We love you. Thanks for joining. Jim, where can people find you online?
They can find me out at Twitter. I'm on the tweets at JJP Out West. JJP, OUTWEST, all one word. Go ahead and find me there. Tweet at me. Send me a direct message. Also find me on Facebook. And my regular name, Jim Pugliafico.
There you go. You sounded a little bit like a cheerleader there for a second. JJP.
OUTWEST. Go defense. Yes. That's right.
I was thinking more like go Big D, but defense works.
Oh, Big D. Nice. Go Big D. Go Big D.
Will, where can people find you?
All right. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Whatever Cove. I'm on Facebook. Just look for William Lindis. Send me a message first just so I know who you are. Look for me on Letterboxd. I'm William Lindis there as well. And also, as Brad mentioned, you can look for me at BlizzCon 2018. I will be the only chubby bearded guy wearing a gaming t-shirt there.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
You might be like one of like the 10% of gay chubby guys wearing gaming t-shirts.
I'm going to fit very much into the stock character.
I think it might be more like 40%, Brad.
It's basically me photocopied across the entire crowd.
Well, there you go. All right. Hey, you can find me on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I'm set so that only friends of friends can add me, but you can still message me and I can add you. So feel free, send a note, say hi. You can also find me on Twitter. It's up here on the screen if you can see it. If not, you can find me at Brad Pro. We're also going to be in Palm Springs this coming weekend for Pride. Super excited
Yeah,
to
you're
see.
super excited. All right.
Not exceeded yet.
Just not yet, but I hope to be. We're super stoked to see a bunch of our friends. If you're going to be in Palm Springs, and for whatever reason, we don't know about it yet, but you want to hang out, you want to go see Thor, you want to come by the house and chill in the pool and drink and get your Pride pool party
Get your willy
celebration
wet.
on. Well, you know, hey,
Yeah.
why not?
In the pool.
Feel free.
No, that's happening in Anaheim.
In the pool.
No, it's happening in the pool too. But give us a shout out, say hi. Anyways, bye everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.